Hello and welcome to this big clipper video. In this video I'm going to show you how I went about building a diorama based on the lyrics from a song. Now this was one of the themes from the Tabletop Crafters United Discord challenges. It was a lot of fun. Didn't win it, but you just enter it to have fun, you don't enter it to win it, so I don't care. And I chose the theme, I chose the theme for this month, but I can't speak today. I chose the theme, so it was my suggestion, which was really cool. And there were some really awesome entries, which I will attempt to remember to link probably up here, if not up here, can never remember which way around it is, to my summary video for the builds for this month, where you can see all the builds and also find out who won that time. So let's get into it. I'll show you how I go about it, how I come up with the idea and what the end result is at the end. You'll be able to see some pictures. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I do love all those things. Don't be shy, do say hello. They really inspire me and motivate me to keep going. So do leave a comment if you can. I'll shut up rambling now. I'll stop pleading for you for comments. Thanks for watching and I'll see you again at the end. So my theme is, well, the theme for this 2 months is take a song and build something that is inspired by the song or tells a story of a theme of a song or something along those lines. And I have picked a song by a artist I really like, a Western artist, or Western, called Trace Adkins, which is called Chrome. And it's a fantastic tune. It's a really good fun tune. And in the song there are lyrics which basically is a guy chatting a girl up and asking if the girl wants to come for a ride in his truck, and she says, "Hell no, I want to drive." And I love it. It's such a good song. I will link to it. I won't be able to put the music in the video because of copyright issues, but I will link to it. It is on YouTube. You can go and have a listen to it. And he's a great artist. I've got lots of his music. So I have ordered a Mack truck because this guy in the song is driving a big black Mack truck with chrome and smokestacks pointed toward the sky. So as you can see, that's what this is. So I'm going to make this in 1/25 scale. What I also have done is picked up a couple of these or a packet here. Obviously there's a couple of bending over girls. I'm not entirely sure that they're going to fit in with this theme. This one here is the one I bought it for. She's going to be the girl that is being chatted up, and that is also in 1/24 scale. These are good. I've used these kits before for my post-apocalyptic build and they work really well. So I'm going to build at least one of them. And I've got another kit coming which is the actual filling station that they're at, so that's on its way as well, and a final one which is the bloke, like a cowboy looking trucker guy who is also from these Master Box series. They're very good. I really highly recommend them if you're doing large scale dioramas. So these arrived today, so I'm going to start building them. I'm going to start making the figures, and I'm also going to start making the truck. Now this is going to be an interesting build. I'll put as much of it as I can on camera because I think it's going to be quite cool, but probably won't put it all on just because it'll also be a little bit samey at times. But yeah, really pleased that they arrived, and I've got most 6 weeks to build this diorama, so I'm going to have to get this made and then paint it black and then put it into a nice display. So yeah, really excited about this build. I am getting more and more into large scale dioramas, as you'll have seen on the channel, and really enjoyed making the truck for the previous diorama, so I'm pretty excited to get this one done as well. So yeah, let's get stuck in. So here you can see what was inside the box for the Legendary 60s series on New Adventures, and you can see that there are the 3 figures here. The one that I want to do is this figure here, and this is the A sprue. So you can see that all of the parts on this are from the A sprue, all the parts on this are from the C, and this is from the B. So that makes it nice and easy. This here is the A sprue. I didn't even know this came with a cat, but it does. So the cat may indeed make an appearance on the diorama. So what I'm going to do is separate this sprue off, and then clip all the parts off from this sprue and put them in hot soapy water and wash them. And that's because you don't know what mould release was used to separate this from its mould, and if you don't do that, you might be alright. But if you don't do that, you might not be alright, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world when your paint starts falling off if you haven't washed your figure, and I do this for every single one I make. So yeah, I'll clip these off, put it into the wash, and then when that's done, I'll bring you back and we'll stick it together, which I think looks quite easy. The last one was as well, but yeah, first of all the wash, so let's get that done and leave it to dry. Right, so I just spent some time cleaning up some sprue lines on these as well, gave them a good hot soapy wash last night. And what I'm going to do now is start to glue them together, which is going to be really, hopefully, really simple. I'm going to make use of super glue rather than plastic glue for this, just because they're a little bit bigger, good big contact points, and so it's going to be a bit easier for me and with my clumsy hands to work. So you can see that you glue the bottom half together like that, and I'll probably come along and do a little bit of filling with some of my Mr. Putty, but it does go together quite nicely anyway. There we are. So we'll glue the bottom half together and then the top half, which is also quite obvious. And then probably what I'll do is I'll let that fully dry, fully go off, and then I'll do the rest. I'll do the rest off camera because it's just going to be the same thing. You're just gluing it together, sticking it together. It's pretty obvious how it works. One thing to highlight, which I have actually accidentally broken because I'm clumsy, is that she does actually have a cigarette in her hand if you're building this particular model. But I probably was going to snip that off anyway. So yeah, and I've actually just seen there's a little bit more sprue clean up that needs to do on that arm. But ultimately what we're going to end up with is one figure, so I'll get that all glued together and then bring you back when I come to do the filling. I'm a little bit disappointed with how that is at the front, having seen how cleanly it's gone together at the back. I might actually need to separate that again and do it from the front. Yeah, there we are, that's better. There we are. I might need to do a little bit of filling on that. But yeah, so I'll get the rest of that done and bring you back when it's all glued together, when she's a whole figure, and then we'll have a look at the filling. So she's been glued together and I'm really pleased actually. I've managed to keep the cigarette for now, so I'm gonna leave that on as maybe I might snip it off, but for now I'm gonna try and keep it. I said there was a cat, and it's not a cat. It just looked a bit like a cat. It's actually a little bulldog or a pug or something like that. So I'm going to be sticking that together and also putting that on the diorama somewhere because it's pretty cool. So I'm about to prime and paint this one up and also the little pug. The next time you see this, it will be painted and about to go on the diorama. But yeah, it was really easy to assemble. I will bring you along when I come to doing the filling, like I've said, which I'll be doing very shortly. Just a couple of bits of filling needed. So actually I lied, you will see this again when I'm filling, but then I'm just going to paint it up and I won't bother putting that on video because yeah, I'm not a very good painter. So yeah, these master box models are really good. They're highly recommended if you're looking at diorama building. Okay, so I've got some gaps on this, and also I've glued together the pug, and there's a little gap on that as well by the neck. So I'm going to make use of this, which is my Mr. Dissolve Putty from Mr. Hobby, which I really like for these sorts of gaps where you can see it's a very small gap. You don't want to go over the top, but it does definitely need filling just to the front of her trousers there. And I normally use a toothpick. And you can see just how easy that is. That's already done. There's a little gap round by her arm there, which I just need to get into a little bit. So getting access is sometimes the hardest part of doing this. And then what you can do is you can come in with the dry end of the toothpick and remove any that you don't want, like that. Now this will dry very quickly, but I'll probably leave it overnight anyway, to go off and then prime afterwards, because one of the worst things is if you rush these things and you prime too soon, you can sometimes get problems with reactivating or with ruining your brushes, which no one wants to do. But it's a really good little bit of purchasing if you can get hold of this Mr. Dissolve Putty. If you've got issues like on this pug, as you can see, there's a line down the back. I can come along here and brush this in with my toothpick and that will get rid of that line. And finally we have a little line on his neck behind his ear there, so I'm going to come along, get some on my toothpick and push it in there, and there we are. We have solved all of our gap problems just as quick as that. So I'll let that, all over, never mind. I'll let that dry, and then I'll prime it grey and paint it. Now definitely the next time you see these, they'll be painted and ready for the diorama. So let's have a look at this Mack truck and have a look at the instructions. And I've just glanced at them, and what I'm going to tell you is I'm not going to film every single stage of this, because it's going to take a long time and not be very easy, and it will also be quite tedious to watch. I think going through hundreds of pieces, literally. I mean, these are all the black pieces, those are the wheels, we've got a bag of white pieces, we've got a bag of silvered pieces, which is cool. There's the cab, and there's the clear pieces. You can see there's a lot going on here. So what I think I'm going to do instead is just show my progress on a day-by-day basis, so that I can show steps and we can just basically track through the build rather than, like I say, having the camera pointed down and cutting things out and gluing them together. Having said that, I'm going to quickly now have a look through the instructions and show what it looks like, because I'm a little bit disappointed. They're not great. It is a very old kit, this, just to be clear. This is what they call a vintage kit, though it supposedly has been modernised, but they haven't really modernised the instructions very well. I've got a piece 156 black, which is joined into 157 black. That kind of tells you how many pieces there are. And then over here I've got 217 black against 151 black. Now that's pretty cool in that they tell you the number and the colour, and that means it's going to be a bit easier to isolate and identify where the parts are on the sprues. But having said that, the sprues are, as I can see, there's nowhere in this which actually has a picture of the sprues and shows you where all the pieces are. So you are going to be doing a little bit of fettling and fiddling. The thing that's given me most pause, if I zoom in on this top panel here, it says to remove the centre portion. Now, okay, but why? Maybe that's casting, so that's how it was on the cat. That's just like sprue actually in the middle. But I need to. That kind of concerns me a bit, where you're getting a piece and you have to cut it to make it and cut it right with such a, well, sketchy sketch. So anyway, first impressions, I really hope I don't make a big mistake and damage and destroy the kit and make it not look nice. But second impressions is this is surely going to be awesome. It's I'm very excited. So that's a very long rambly intro. I'm going to sit down now and do a couple of panels, try and get a little way along. I'm quite tired from the day, but I'm going to give it a go now, and I'll be back at the end of the evening to show you how far I've got. And yeah, we'll just crack on through this and hopefully get this made in the next couple of weeks. Well, I got to halfway through step 4. I've done the wheels, which were okay actually, and the instructions for cutting actually worked. Though it was quite obvious what to do, thankfully, so that wasn't too painful. It didn't start off very well, because the very first instruction says get 157 and 156 BK, and actually it was 162 BK, so that wasn't the greatest start. But after that, everything has been numbered correctly, so that's a relief. I've not finished step 4. I've still got to do the brake assembly, air brake cylinders, and some other bits and pieces in the middle, but I'm just got too tired. So and this was quite a satisfactory place to complete it, to finish the day. So yeah, so I'm going to I'm just going to stick on with that now. I'm going to leave it there, pick it up again tomorrow. The other thing is I'm not 100% sure which is the driver's side and which is the passenger side, and it says use 199 on the driver's side and 198 on the passenger side for the air brakes, and I'm just too brain dead to work that out right now. So I'm really pleased with the evening. Real good fun. Just chucked some YouTube videos on and cracked on with it. Yeah, the instructions are pretty good so far. We'll see how long I think it's fun for, because yeah, right now I'm enjoying it, but yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. So the next section here has arrived for the diorama, and this is a 1/24 scale service station, which will be being used on the display, of course, because I will have my Big Mack truck parked up outside this, and then the hell no, I want to ride, I want to drive girl stood next to it with the driver talking to her. So this is really cool to have arrived. I ordered this on eBay and it arrived, brilliant service, eBay UK, arrived very quickly, very well packaged, and if we have a quick look inside, I'm not going to unbox it, but it's new in box, look at that, totally untouched. So very, very awesome. Comes with the base, which is going to be good. I hadn't realised that. I haven't even looked at this. Honestly, I've not even opened it properly. I've just looked to see how good it looks. I've not dug into it. So it comes with a base, so I'll be able to build on that and then maybe extend that for my actual scene. So yeah, pretty pleased that that's arrived. I will be building that in the same way as I'm building the truck. So I'll just tell you, like, return to it every now and then with progress reports. I'm not going to show how to build it. If you want to know, buy it yourself and build it. Though I don't know you'll find it. This is quite a rare kit. But yeah, just going to crack on through that, and that's going to be a really good base to put the truck on. Really happy. So onwards and upwards. I spent an hour and a half this evening putting this together. Literally an hour and a half. And yeah, there was some swearing and there was some questioning of my sanity, but it's done now. So that's the chassis. That was part instruction parts 5, 6, 7 and 8. So I've done another page. I actually skipped on, left a little bit of part 4. I'm basically building these up alongside moving forwards. There's some other bits and pieces to go on here and the air brakes. I've progressed a little bit more. I've put some more of the hubcaps on this section as well, but most of it was getting this together, which really did take a bit of time. But it's done, and that's actually the way up it's supposed to go. So you've got the front and the steering wheel here, and then this, I believe, will settle on the back there somehow. So yeah, we're making progress, but yeah, that was a mission and a half. I'm glad it's done, but yeah, it took a bit longer than I expected to get those steps done this evening. Well, I've been trucking on with this. Get it? Trucking? Yes, I did plan that joke. I've been making progress on this, just an odds and sods of time through the day. Today, I finally managed to get the chassis mounted to the rear end. That was a little bit fun. I did actually have to go to my super glue activator to get it to work. But yeah, crack it on. The next thing that I have to do in the instructions, which is starting at point 12, which is here, is I'm going to start making the engine. So that's the next thing. And I could have been doing that alongside it, but I am following through in the order of the instructions. But you can see once the engine is made, we're going to slot that in on the front and glue these wheels on. And yeah, I'm enjoying the build a lot. It's fiddly at times, but I'm really liking how it's looking. I'm very excited to get it done. Yeah, this week it's proven to be a really fun little thing for me to do. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there through the day when I've been frustrated. Just pick up, glue one piece on, literally 2 pieces on, put it back, and slowly but surely it's coming together. So going to keep on like that, and hopefully get this done in the next couple of days, so I can then start on actually laying out the service station and the diorama and wrapping up the build, because yeah, I've only got another 4 or 5 weeks to go before it needs to be finished. And at the speed I'm going at it, I'm not going very fast, I'm not wanting to, but it doesn't mean I need to keep being regular on it rather than irregular. So I had another delivery, and it is these 2 figures. I only need one of them though, which is going to be for the taking the part of Trace, and I think that it's going to be Jordan. Oh, kick the camera. Sorry, Jordan Jesus Jameson is who I'm going to use. So I'm going to make this up, and he will be attempting to chat up the hell no woman, which is here. Really pleased with how she's turned out. Very happy. If you follow my Instagram, you'll have seen that progressing. So yeah, so I'm going to make him. Same idea. Wash in soapy water, glue them together, fill with the gap filler, prime and paint. So I'll get that done, and next time you'll see him, he'll be finished and ready to go on to the diorama. So that's really cool. That's the final missing bit for now. Yeah, I did actually order a few, so they'll be going in other dioramas that I'll do, so they'll come to the channel as well at some point. But yeah, we're going to stick him together and get him painted up. I've been chipping away at this all week. Made some pretty good progress. The chassis is attached, as you can see, and articulated, which is really, really cool. And the engine is just sat in at the moment. I've not actually stuck that in place. This is what I've been spending most of the time on. So let me just get that out. Right, there we are. I managed to extract that. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun for various reasons of fun, various meanings of fun, but it's nice to see it come together. There's a couple more things to add on, and then that's finished, and that can then sit back in the chassis as you saw. Then the front wheels will go on, and yeah, we're making some good progress. So I fingers crossed I'll get this done this coming week, and then I've got a month left on the project to get it all completed. As you've seen, I've got some of the figures, or all the figures now that I need, so everything is in hand, and I've got a month to wrap it up. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this scale. It's really nice. I do a lot of little scale, small scale stuff, and it's a lot of fun doing these larger scale models. I'm really enjoying them. So yeah, there we are. So carrying on with that. Not filming it because it's very fiddly and very annoying, but I'll just keep doing little updates as I go through, and any gotchas, I'll be sure to highlight them to you. But nothing so far, particularly on this kit. It's been pretty good actually. The instructions aren't great, but if you take your time, they are clear enough. So the Big Black Mack Truck is coming on really nicely. I'm at a point now where I need to touch up some of the paint, and then I'll be putting the final chrome on. So that's basically finished. I'm really pleased. I mean, obviously I love the look of the truck. I've got the Hell No Girl, as I'm calling her, and a little doggy, which is finished. And downstairs is the male figure. I'm still in the process of painting him. Jesus, as he's called on the pack. But what I'm going to do now is start having a look at this kit here. Now this is the Joe's Power Plus, which is what I'm going to have as the diorama, and you can see it's actually going to work quite well. I think it's going to work quite well. I think everything should fit on it. I might end up having to put this onto a shelf, but I'm not totally sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick look through the parts and look at the instructions, and then make a start. And I'll do the same thing as I've done with the truck. I'm not going to go through a build with me on this in full detail. It's just going to be too much, I think, to do that. Too much footage, and it'll get a bit dull and repetitive. But what I'll do is I'll highlight if there's any issues or anything I come across. Having said that, there are a couple of things I wanted to highlight on the Mack Truck. When you're putting this together, there's a few times where, for example, when you're fitting the interior, it seems to suggest that you put the dashboard on before you fit the seats and all the control surfaces like the gear sticks and what have you. And I can tell you that I do not have an accelerator or brake pedal in there because I couldn't get it in, because I'd already glued the dashboard in, and then I was not able to get the pedals in place. Now you're not going to be able to see, it doesn't matter, only I know, though I do know I am irritated, because if I'd have realised, it would have been really easy to glue everything in and then finally glue the dashboard in once everything else was in place. And the order of the instructions is well, it basically pretty much tells you to put the dashboard in and then to glue all the other stuff in, which makes no sense. So that is probably, everything else is pretty good. It's quite hard. I've also glued the window down deliberately. Well, if you're going to do that, cut it, because the interior then became quite hard for me to fit, because the perspex, a clear perspex, is down to here, and that actually, the interior actually goes up past it. So those are a couple of little things to say about that. Other than that, it's been a really fun kit. I really like it. It looks great. It's exactly what I wanted. Just a couple of little bits when I've been assembling it. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to have a look at Joe's Power Plus, start putting it together, and I'll let you know how it's going. I'll give regular updates onto the to the camera, and yeah, we'll just get this done. Cracking on. So I made a bit of progress on this. This is what the service station is supposed to look like, and I think I'm not going to build it to spec. If you're making a model of a service station, this is fantastic. If you want to have a really big diorama, this is fantastic. But pretty much all of this space, this is the front wall, all this space behind is going to be dead space in terms of the diorama I'm building, because what I'm building is the truck with the man and the woman talking out front. So I'm going to not build it on this base. That's what I'm going to do. I am going to make use of all the other bits and pieces. So here, this here is the base which has the petrol pump on it, and there's a few other bits and pieces, like there's a compressor and a jack and what have you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this front piece, which is cool, and I think I'm actually going to well, there's two options I've got. One option I've got is to make use of this plastic bit as it is and just literally throw the rest of the kit away, which is a bit of a waste. I probably won't throw it all away. I'll probably keep it and use it for something else. And I'll have that set at the back of my diorama piece with a little bit of a backdrop in here, and then the main part of it is going to be the front with the truck, part next to the fuel pump, and then the kind of interaction between the two people. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to try to use this as a template, but I'm going to make use of the parts that came with, paint this up, and then build a diorama on the front of it. So yeah, that pretty much is a decision made. So I'm going to put the base to one side. That's not going to be part of this build, and instead I'm going to make up all the other bits which are in these parts, paint them up and what have you. That's going to be the thing to do, and then once I've got all of that done, then I can set it out on its shelf, which is what it's going to be built on, and I won't be wasting all that space with things that aren't actually relevant for the diorama. So yeah, really cool kit though, goes together well, just not right as it happens for what I want, but it's turning out to have all of the bits that I want. These are all going to look really great, and they're going to add real character to the scene. So yeah, there we are, a little bit of a thought process. So I'll let you know how easily all the rest of it goes together when it's all done. We'll start painting it up, and then we can assemble the diorama, because all the other bits are pretty much there, apart from I need to, if we pan around, sitting in front of Rudolph, we've got the black truck. I need to matte varnish, or sorry, the gloss varnish him, because I've been told that the duck don't drive no matte truck, and frankly they're not wrong. Well, that was super fiddly. Turns out trying to build tiny things at the end of a hard work day isn't the best idea, because yeah, I wasn't concentrating and I broke a few things, but I've done enough. There's a couple more that I might make, but I think that's going to be enough to populate this scene. So we've got the front of the actual service station, and this here is the door which goes in that slot there, which I'm going to paint, at least paint the bars, I think. I'm not sure that I might even paint the bottom, leave the glass. And then we've got this is the sign, which will have the name of the service station. These are the petrol pumps which go into the stand here, and then I've got an oil drum, I've got an oil can that I broke, I've got a dolly for going underneath trucks, and a couple of pumps. So yeah, there's some hose as well somewhere around. I've seen it, I don't know that I've lost it or not, which is then used and is used on the pumps and also on top of this, but I'm going to wait for those all to dry and paint them before I try to stick any hose on. Now obviously I need to make the actual petrol handle. I'm not doing that tonight because I'm just too clumsy. But there we are. So I'm going to get this painted up and ready for the diorama, and I will bring you back when I've done that to show what it looks like when it's painted. Not sure what colours I'm going to do. I do have all of the transfers. Oh, that's where the pipe is. Anyone seen it? There's a pipe. But I've got all the transfers as well. So Joe's Power Plus will go on here, and Joe's Gas, these go onto the actual sign. So yeah, so there's a load of transfers, which is going to be pretty cool to use. So I'm happy about that. I will get it painted up and then bring it back when I've done that, and I'm about to apply the transfers. So yeah, let's get this done. Alright, so it's time to start mocking this up. I've still not varnished the Big Black Mack Truck, but that won't take me long to do when I get to it. And then there's the final chrome bits to stick on once I've varnished it. I don't want to, I've stuck a few chrome bits on which I probably shouldn't have done. I should have probably finished painting and varnishing before I did those. But anyway, so what I've got here is this is going to have the petrol pumps on it. And this is the front of the service station. I'm probably going to have it laid out like that. So there'll be a backdrop which I'll put behind the service station, with maybe a picture of the inside of a workshop there, and this is glass as well, so there'll be the picture of an inside of like I'll just do a backdrop of some sort, I'm not sure exactly how, and then the petrol pumps will be here, and I will have a pump, the actual will be going into this, so I'm going to drill out the fuel tank, and that will be refilling basically. Then we've got the Hell No I Want to Drive girl. She is going to be stood leaning on the truck somewhere, as you can see, she's leaning. And then Jesus Dude, who has finished painting him, he's turned out quite nice I think, will be standing kind of here talking to her. So that's the layout, and then the rest of the stuff will be put up, so the sign will go here and the dog will be running around and what have you, so there'll be a fair few other bits and pieces. But that's the layout I think I'm going to go with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get some of the black, thin black insulation that I like to use for basing for these sorts of things, particularly because it works so well as an asphalt with a little bit of black grout over the top of it, and it will prevent the wood from warping. So I'm going to get that, going to stick that down using my super strong glue that I like so much, which I actually probably need to buy some more of. I'm going through so much of it, I use it a lot now. So the Moment Fix Extreme, really good for gluing anything to anything. So I'll get that done, get it cut to size, get it trimmed down, get it glued on, finish painting up these elements and the other elements that I've got to paint, and then bring it back when that's all ready to be glued down. So yeah, pretty excited. We're getting there, not far off. Nice and early on this build, which is what I like, because I've got another big build I want to do very soon, and I need to get back to my Battle Games of Middle Earth as well, going off subject. So yeah, I'm excited to get this done. Really enjoying the build. It's been on my mind for a while to do. Really cool song, love it so much. So it's good to see it coming together, and that truck does look awesome. I'm about to find something out and share it with you live on camera. I'm going to try and find out whether yacht varnish, literally yacht varnish, goes well onto plastic, because I need to gloss up my truck, because I've been told in no uncertain terms that it should be gloss. So what I'm going to do is, this is actually one of the brushes you get with Elegoo with their resin, funnily enough. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply it a little bit on this side, very small amount, and just see how well it looks, whether it goes off well, before applying it all over and on the other side. The reason is this side is not going to be towards the viewer. You'd have to make a huge effort to see this, and that's going to be a good way to test what this looks like. So I'm just going to apply that tiny bit. I'll wash my brush off with some white spirits, and then later on I'll check to see how that looks, whether it's dried with much visible brush marks, and whether it's dried at all. But initially, application there, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So hopefully I'll be able to make use of this yacht varnish over the whole of it, because I don't actually have any gloss varnish for models, because I normally matte varnish. So yeah, this is the only gloss varnish I have to hand without having to go out to the shops. One thing that I really want to have in this service station is stuff in the windows. A couple of reasons, one of which will make it a bit easier to hide the fact that probably what's going to be behind isn't going to be very good. But also I wanted to have some Trace Adkins adverts. This here is actually the album cover for the song, so I pulled that out. And what I've also done is found an advert for his current tour. I wish I could get over for it, it'd be awesome. I've also found a couple of interesting kind of like posters. I think I might need to print that one a bit smaller, but I think these are maybe around the right size. It's a bit difficult to work out what size I want to do, so I've also found another of these, so I might put them down. But the big thing, and this is cool, is I'm doing some speech bubbles. So, do you want to ride is what your man here is going to be saying. So I'm going to cut that out, stick it to some solid card, and then stick that to him coming out of his mouth. Do you want to ride? Hell no, I want to drive. And that's what she's going to be saying. So some interesting paperwork there. It's really good having a colour printer. Brilliant investment. The duplex colour laser saves paper when I'm printing out rules, and I can do cool things like this. But what I'm going to do now is, I think I might print again, like I say, these ones a little bit smaller, but I'm looking at putting these in the window. Oh, it's not stuck on that, it's just wedged in. That's something else I didn't show actually. So I've marked this in place. I marked with a pencil on each end, and then took this tool here to, because it pulls out quite difficult to pull out, to put a really good solid dip, which is where this the front of the actual service station is going to be able to sit. And you can see even without any glue it does hold itself up, so when I come to glue that in place, that gives it a really nice bed. And what I'll do then is put the grout over the top. But what I'm going to do first, before I do any of that, I'm going to work out how these are going to sit in the windows, and then I'm going to actually do a little bit more painting on this as well. I'm just going to paint the rest of the service station white, so where it's grey now, I'm going to paint it all white. But yeah, that's that. I'm really enjoying this actually. This is now the fun part. The truck building was great, but building this little scene up is I'm just enjoying it a lot. Another thing I've done is I use the granite texture spray, which I don't often use aerosols, but this is really cool. So I've put the texture spray on the base of the service island where the petrol pumps actually sit on here, and that has worked out really nice for that effect. So yeah, really cool. So that's going to go on as well. Onwards, let's get these posters and what have you in the window, and get the rest of the surround of this painted, and then I'll come back for the next step. Alright, so now I'm getting my transfer on. So I've started doing this already just to remind myself how to go about it. I've started putting the transfers on the big lollipop, as it's called, and what I'm going to do now is apply the transfers to the actual filling, the actual gas pumps. So you can see here we have, these are the transfers that are going to go on the gas pumps, and I'm only going to do one on camera because it is very much a case of doing the same thing over and over again for all these. So the first thing you've got to do is cut your transfer out. Now you can use a scissors if you want to, but I found a sharp knife to be a little bit easier to work with. So you cut that out, and then here I have a little bowl with some warm water in it, which I will drop the transfer into like that, and leave it in there for the second. I like using microsol and microset. I find that they make a massive difference for applying transfers, so I would highly recommend that if you're going to do this, you invest into these two little pots. That what you see there, I have had for literally years, and while I don't do a huge amount of transfer work, they're just going to last forever. So basically what we do is we take the microset, which is the blue one, and this is the one that I'm going to stick it to. So we take the microset, and very carefully taking a brush, you brush on where you want your transfer to go. Now this particular one that I'm doing here is going to go on the front of the pump. So we put some microset on there, and then do the lid up, because if you're anything like me and clumsy in any way, that will just end up going everywhere. You don't want to knock it over. So now you've got that on there, get some needle nose tweezers, and the warm water should, for small transfers you'll definitely need the tweezers, but for larger ones it can be easier to use just your fingers and drop it on. Then you get some more microset. I've still got some on this brush, obviously, pick up the right brush, and use your brush to move the transfer into place. Be very careful, because you don't want to tear it, because it will be a little bit delicate. The microset does act as a softener, but it also acts to actually help you to position the transfer. So we're looking at getting it in exactly the right place. That looks good to me. Let me just point the camera a little bit more at the specifics of what I'm doing. Don't need to be so general. So what I'm now doing is I'm now going to get the microsol, use a different brush for the microsol, and basically put that over the top. Now what this does is it allows, I believe it actually does the fixing of the transfer in place, and then you leave it. and that is done. So it's a really simple, quick process. I've got to do that on all these. I've got a few other bits and pieces I want to do. I also have the Joe's power, got to go across the top here. Oh, you can see that I've stuck my stuck my stuff on. They're looking really cool. So I've got like some stickers to go here, stickers around here, the actual signage to go there. So I've got quite a lot of transfer work to do, so I'm going to get all that done now. Yeah, when that's done, I can start to stick everything together and glue things on, which is really cool getting there. Really excited. Alright, now we get to the exciting part of gluing these bits down. So you can see I've put lots of the transfers onto the building, which is cool. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue that in place, and I'm also going to stick down the island and also put the sign, and the sign's going to go here, I think, which is a little bit of an odd place for it, but whatever, don't care, it's fine. So I'm going to use the Moment Fix Extreme, which I like so much, and the idea I've got for sticking this down, which I hope is going to work, is I'm going to put a bead of the Moment Fix down where the walls are, but not across the entrance, and again put a bead here, and then I'm going to attempt to smooth it on either side. So let me show you what I mean. So if because I'm going to be grouting and painting what have you the base anyway, so I should be able to cover up this white well enough. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this into the groove that I cut previously, if I can, and then smooth this, kind of grout it in like that. And then what I'll do is I'll come along with the grout when I do the grouting, which will be the next step after this is dried, and I'll be able to cover that up and hide that, hopefully. So there we are, that's the idea. What I might end up doing is getting some 90-degree weights. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to stick down these with the same material, with the same glue. But first, let me just get some 90-degree jobbies on this, just to make sure that it doesn't get stuck down and not be straight up or down. There we are, that's better. So that'll hold it in place. Let's just wipe that off there a bit. Good. So yeah, so the next thing I'm going to do is exactly the same kind of idea, but for this one it's a little bit simpler. What I'm going to do is put a thick bead all the way around the bottom and then press it down like that, and that wants to go there, and then I'll do the same thing on the bottom of this, kind of fill this up a bit, put quite a lot in the middle, and then a bead around the edge, and that should hold it in place. So I'll leave that to dry now, yeah, to go off, and bring it back for the next step. The next step will be applying the grout. Sorry, I had that in the way then. Worrying more about what I'm doing than filming, but that's the way it is. So that's now glued down. I'll let that go off and bring you back for the next step, which will be applying the grout. Now it's time for the application of grout. So I've just set these here just to have a look and see how they look, but I'm going to take them off while I'm putting the grout in. But I'm pleased with that. So I'm going to not do this on camera because I've done it a lot of times. There's a video below in the description of how I make my grout mix. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use black grout, and then I'm going to paint it grey. So I'm going to apply the grout and I'll bring you back once it's applied and when I'm about to start doing the painting. But I'm going to do this over the entire area, including inside and behind Joe's Power Plus frontage. Really pleased with this. It's looking brilliant, love it. I can't wait to get it all together and show you the final touch. Final touches, can't wait to complete it. Really want to do that this week, so let's crack on. So that wasn't ideal, not sure how well this is going to work. My grey paint has substantially separated and got quite stinky. I've spent quite a long time mixing it and I'm hoping that it's going to be okay. Fortunately I'm not dry brushing with this dark grey But yeah, not ideal. I might have to bin it, which I don't like because it's going to be quite a lot of waste. But the stage I'm coming to now is painting grey, dark grey over all of the base. And that's inside and outside. Because I don't mind if I do it a little bit thin in places. The black's going to show through fine. But this is basically going to give me a nice undercoat. And then I will be able to apply the last colours inside and out before I start to apply all the detritus and gravel and what have you that I want to do. This is basically building up the framework for the underneath. Now I might want a bigger brush, otherwise it's just going to take longer than it needs to. But yeah, I'm just going to basically paint over the whole of this. And like I say, I just hope that this paint is actually going to last, because yeah, I'm a bit annoyed. It was alright last time I used it, which was not that long ago actually, and I don't know whether I've dropped something into it. That could have happened, but yeah, it just was totally separated and very, very stinky. And now I'm going to finish painting this and get a bigger brush and paint this all. I'll bring you back when I come to the next step. This is really starting to come on nicely now. As you can see, the grey paint has dried really well. And look at the bling on that. The varnish went well, I've added the chromes, pretty much finished now on the truck. But as I've been staring at this, I've realised that I was missing a little step at the front of the door. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to have to trim this down because it's because I've set this in so deep, it's a little bit low. So I'm actually going to have to, sounds crazy, I'm going to have to cut that a little bit with the Proxon. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this black foam on as a step, as a little bit of pavement. I'm going to curve the corner, and then it does actually go over the edge. It goes right to the edge, so that's what I want really. Or I'm not sure, I might either curve the corner here and have it running off, or have it so that it's just like this. I'll decide, and I'll glue that in place and then put the grout mixture on top of it to have as a pavement or walkway in front of the door, and that will just finish off that little bit of what's it. So yeah, pretty happy with how this is coming on. The next step is going to be to do a lighter colour inside the workshop, and then finish off with dust and dirt and what have you outside here, and then obviously I need to put the figures in place, and also put the actual pumps in place and finish that little bit off there. I've still got to make the pump, and that's going to be stuck into the side of the car. The idea is that this will be refueling, so we will have an actual the tube will be going from there and will be going into the petrol tank. So yeah, it's going to be a full scene. Anyway, I'll get this little walkway done and then I'll bring you back for the next step, whatever that is, when I get to it. So now I've got my lighter grey. I'm going to do two things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it on, and again I might need a bigger brush having picked up my small brush. I'm going to paint it on quite thickly, not as a dry brush, inside the garage here, which I'll do off camera, but I'm also going to paint it on again thickly, not as a dry brush, over the walkway that I've added here. Once I've done that, what I'll do is I will get my dry brush, which I have here, and a bit of paper, which I have down here. There we are. And what I will then do is dry brush over the rest of the piece. So those are the three things I'm going to do. I'll get most of it done off camera because it's very repetitive, but now you can see what my plan is. And after I've done that, then I'll be coming in with like dust and gravel and what have you to really add a little bit of contrasts and textures and what have you onto this, and then it'll be nearly finished, which is really cool. So yeah, I'll get that done off camera and bring it back and show you what it looks like when it's finished. That's looking really nice. We're starting to get a good touch and a good feel for this now. And what I'm going to do next is I have some of my terrain glue, which is just watered down PVA basically. I'm going to come along and I'm going to put this in places along the edges where dust and gravel may reasonably be expected to gather. So up here and also along the edge of this curb, like that. I'll do most of this off camera again because frankly it's going to be quite a delicate detailed thing because I'm coming in and I'm using pinches to drop dust and gravel in these places, and I don't want to overwhelm it. One of the things I don't do in my models is get too grimy. It's definitely going to be a bit dirty. There's going to be oil on the floor, which I'll do next, so there'll be some washes. But I don't think that there'll be too much, in my mind, anyway for this, there'll be too much gravel or grit. I think it would more be in key places like that corner. And what I'm doing here is I'm using unsifted, so this has been dried obviously, but I haven't filtered for size, builder's sand. So I'm going to do that, put a couple of bits and pieces, maybe some more around the front, around where the petrol is, but more likely just in that gap between the island and the big sign. And then I will come along, and I can pretty much do it now, to be honest, if I'm careful. I will then come along and look to seal in the stones by going over the top with more PVA. Now, I am wanting to finish this, which is why I'm doing this now rather than waiting, because really what I should do is wait for the glue underneath to dry before attempting to seal. But if you're impatient, you can be careful and skip a drying step by coming along and sealing now. If you are able to get a spray thing to work, then that makes it even better, because you can just come in and spray or use droppers or whatever. But I'm going to just use this brush and very carefully seal down this gravel, and then when that's dry, that'll be done. So I'll get this done, and then we'll come back and do the next step, which is going to be making use of grout to put on some dust lines for where cars are driven through, but I'll do that next once this is all dry. So now everything's dry, what I'm going to do is I have some kind of pale dusty grout, and this is a complete experiment, by the way. And what I want to do is kind of try to brush it on to give some dust coming through the service area, just like that. So I'm going to dust it on like a powder, weathering powder, going into the service bay. I'm getting excited, can you tell? I'm excited about how this is looking. Don't want too much. It spreads quite nicely, but just to give it a little bit of a patina of use, a little bit of gravel there. I have tried to knock off all the loose gravel, but that obviously hasn't worked very well. Yeah, so we're just going to come in here and do this, get some dust and what have you going on in this whole area. And then what I'm going to do to seal it in place is I have a little spritzer bottle here with some water in it. That's all there is in there, and that will hopefully work. Of course, this could also ruin the entire thing, so I am a little bit nervous of this. I think that's enough. That looks quite nice. I'm not sure how well that's coming out because of the way the sun is, but apologies for that. Let me just readjust my camera position so that you can actually see what's going on, and we'll do the spritz. That was a better place to do it. So you can see I've put the dust on here, which is the dust, which is basically trying to simulate the fact that people have driven through and what have you and brought things onto the service station. And what I'm now going to do, not that much, I want to mist it. So I'm going to come quite a long way away and attempt to mist that on just to seal it in place. And hopefully this won't ruin it, but we shall see. So I'll put that to dry, and hopefully that will mean that this dust still remains looking dusty. If it doesn't, then I'm not sure what I'm going to do, because I'm right at the end of the build. But you've got to live and learn, haven't you? So you've got to try things. Let's see how that looks. Well, the good news is that spraying of water does seem to have bedded down very nicely and locked that in place, which is really cool, and it hasn't caused any lifting or any other damage to anything else. So rock and roll, full success. So what I'm going to do now, we really are starting to get to the end of this. I'm going to glue these in place, because once they're in place, then I can start to put the rest of the dressing on, as in the hose from the petrol pump that will be going to the actual truck, and then also put the miniatures in place. So just use some super glue, glue that in, and then when this is all set and dry, then I will start to do the final dressing of this. And I'm very happy with how it's looking, really pleased with it, and very excited to see it all completed and all together. So yeah, I will get that done and bring you back for the next step when I get to it. So the petrol pump handle and what have you, and the attachments that are going to go onto these pumps, is I've started painting them up, what have you. So they will be attached. What I'm realising is that I'm now going to start to place my two figures, and I probably need to actually stick the truck down, which I was hoping I might not have to, but as you can see, the Hell No girl, I want her to be leaning on the front on the there while she's talking, and yeah, so the truck is going to have to be glued down, otherwise that's not going to work. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to put a dab of super glue on each of the wheels, set it in place, and then I'll stick the two figures in place as well at the same time. And I've also got the little doggy, which I'm not totally sure where he's going to go. I've actually just noticed I've not even finished painting him, so probably that will have to get painted tonight. He might be kind of standing over here, I think. But yeah, so I'm going to do that now, just glue those in place, glue the figures in place, and then once that's all set, then we will do the final thing, which for the figures, which I'm the most excited about, which is putting the speech bubbles on. Very cool. So I'll get these glued down and bring you back for the next step very shortly. So now we come to the final fun bits. As you can see, I have been working away on the petrol pump, and here is the petrol nozzle and the pipe and the hose. It's very long, but I've decided to leave it full length. Maybe that was a mistake. So I've attached both, and they're both attached at the pump. One of them is going to end up actually being, if I can feed that through, stuck and glued in to where the fuel filler would be. So it's going to end up being stuck in there. So what I'll be doing is snipping the end off of that, and it's not very easy to see just because it's so fine detailed. Let me see if I can make sure that focus is a bit easier. Put my hand behind it. Yeah, so I'm going to cut most of the nozzle off that, that's worked better, and glue that in place onto the truck. What I'm waiting for now is the little hook there is drying, because what I'll need to do is wind the hose around that hook, glue it in place, and then once that's dried, then I'll be able to glue the hook into the fuel. But yeah, really close to finishing this up now, so I'll just wait for the hook to dry. On the other side, on this one, what will happen is it will be wound around the hook twice, and then glued in place into the little kind of like catch there where the petrol pump actually should sit. And that is the final things, I think. Then I'll be looking at finishing off over here. So yeah, I'll get that done, show you what that looks like, and then we'll put the speech bubbles in, and the little doggy in, and then we're done. Oh, the petrol pumps are done. You can see there the nozzle is into the fuel tank, and now we come to the moment of truth. So let me lock this camera in. I'm probably only going to glue one in on camera because it's a bit fiddly, and I'm not entirely sure actually how long I'm going to have to hold it for. But the Do You Want to Ride? Jesus. I'm going to glue the speech bubble down there. So it's going to be able to put some glue on the side of his face and on his hair, and that is going to give me a relatively good binding point to hold this. The Hell No woman, I am less certain of how I'm going to do the gluing, so I'll get that done off camera and show you when it's done. So yes, I'm probably going to have to stand here and hold this for a bit. So I'll probably turn the camera off, get this set, and then bring you back when I've done the second speech bubble and show you what it looks like. And there you have it. Do you want to ride? Hell no, I want to drive. And you can see the puppy is in the background, finished painting and ready to be put on. So that is pretty much done. There might be some more little bits and pieces that I'll assemble on, but I'm probably not going to glue them in place. So I've got like that little red barrel there and a few other bits and pieces. But for all intents and purposes, that is completed. Very, very cool. So I'll get those final dressings done and then wrap this project up. Wonderful. Very, 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 very pleased with how it's looking. So some additional prettiness and decoration for the workshop area in this. So I've put together the car lift jack thing, which I'm going to stick down in this area here. So I had to trim a little bit of it off because it's designed to slot into a hole in the other base, and obviously I'm not using the full base, so that will just get glued down using PVA there. The other things that I've got, which I'll just glue in place or maybe even just scatter and not glue down, I've got some of these just little pumps and what have you, which I'm putting in there just as a scatter terrain. And finally, same sort of idea, I've got some little tins and what have you that I'm going to stack up and put around as well. And the last thing is this little stand. Now this little stand in the kit is supposed to have those cans on it, but it was very fiddly and I just didn't want to do it particularly. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to just have it as a stand with a map on it. So there's a map showing the location of the petrol station in the surrounding area. So that's just a transfer. So I'm going to stick that on, the transfer on here, and have that just stood on the sidewalk loose. And then I think probably, apart from some oil stains, which I'm going to put in here, when that's all dried, I'll just use some black wash. I think that's done. So I'll bring you back when I come to do the oil stains. But yeah, just going to do this transfer now. Maybe use a spot of super glue to stick these other extraneous items down. But yeah, pretty much done. Very, very pleased with this. So I'll get that finished and bring you back on the next step, which will be the stains. Finishing touches on this awesome build I'm enjoying so much is to put a little bit of like oil and what have you, drop some oil on it. So I've got a brush which I'm going to water down some black paint a lot, just using the lid of the paint here, and then just gonna splash it on there, really water it down. If I go too over the top, I can always come along with some grey and like feather that in and make that a little bit less aggressive. But that's the idea basically. It's going to put some oil splotches and what have you, just to make it a little bit less stark. There's often spilled fuel or what have you in places. Often a car will be leaking when it's parked up and fueling. So yeah, I think that's actually enough. I'm going to wait for that to dry, and I might actually, as I say, I might dull that down a bit, blend it in a bit more. But yeah, pretty happy with that. Just as a very, very light kind of like final touch. And yeah, let's wrap that project up. Fantastic! I've really enjoyed this, and it looks great. I've been umming and ahhing a little bit about how to do the oil that I want inside this half a drum. It was actually supposed to be a full drum, but I've only want to do half of it. And I've realised that what I can do is quite a simple technique, which I hope will work because I'm trying this live, as I always do on camera, is I can use this foam. So if I press very hard like that into the foam, I can pretty much cut the shape. I can then come along with a knife and trim the rest of that out, and then I'll be able to glue that in, and hopefully I think it will look quite a lot like old oil, which a lot of garages have lying around. They have oil that they've taken out of a car or a truck, and they just have it sat in a half barrel drum like this. So if I press that in there, I mean I will glue it obviously, though I won't need to glue it because I think it will stick in. That is pretty cool. So I think I might need to come back and do a little bit more painting. I seem to have managed to take the blue off. Shouldn't be too hard to do that. So I'll paint the edge again. Maybe paint it black to be honest, so it looks a bit oily. And then yeah, there we are. We've got ourselves a little bit of an oil drum. Might need a little bit more trim down as well. But yeah, nice simple technique. I was thinking about using resin and all sorts of other ideas, which were just going to be way too complicated and annoying, that is going to look perfect when it's sat on the display. And I think that's pretty much the last piece. So let's wrap this up, and it's the 30th tomorrow, no, 30th tomorrow, yes, the last day of the month tomorrow. So I've used all the time available for this build, so it needs to be entered in on the 1st, obviously. So yeah, but still pretty pleased. So let's get everything together and have a look at it, and then wrap it up. Right then, a little bit of super glue, and I can just drop that in there, and that's done. So this is awesome. I mean, it's one of my favourite songs. I absolutely love the song, and to have made this and to put it together and to have a diorama of Chrome by Trace Adkins is just superb. And I had a lot of fun putting this truck together. It was a really cool truck, and then the actual diorama really came well, and I'm particularly pleased with the little kind of like voice bubbles. That has worked out so well. So there we are. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'll get some pictures, put them on the screen for the main video, not the vlog, obviously. And yeah, and then we'll wrap it up. But very, very pleased to have got this done in time, and I've enjoyed all the other entries that are going on as well. So obviously there will be a summary video as well coming out soon that will show off pictures of every single entry for this challenge, which I do. It's a 2-month-long challenge, so every 2 months I do a summary video and show everyone's entries off, which is really, really cool. There's some fantastically creative people. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. I certainly have. I'm very, very pleased with the result. What a truly epic build. Now I do record the intro before I start editing, and then I've literally just finished putting this together and I'm standing recording this now. And I do it like that because I get the joy of watching this, and then I get to wrap up at the end, having just really enjoyed watching some creation come together. And sometimes it's odd for me because I look at it and I'm like, did I do that? That's incredible. And this is one of those times. And it does go to show that don't limit yourself, don't put yourself down, don't think you can't do it. Because I look at this and I think, wow, that person is seriously talented. And then I remember it's me, and I'm surprised and shocked and amazed and a little bit embarrassed. So yeah, just do it. Just give it a go. You never know what you can create. The only way you'll never do it is if you don't try. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Do leave a comment below. I will reply to every single one of them. I really hope this will inspire you and encourage you to give something a go, something outside of your comfort area maybe, or something in your comfort area. That's still good as well, isn't it? And yeah, let me know in the comments if you do make something which is inspired by this. That'd be really, really awesome. I'll wrap up by saying, as I am currently saying, because of what's going on over in Ukraine, if any of you are impacted by that horrible war, either directly or indirectly, then my heart does go out to you and anyone you know who may be in that situation. And to everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.